and welcome to the Accountant Subject Options presentation. Just a quick breakdown about what we're going to go through in the presentation. So just an overview of the subject, the structure of the subject, the content and coursework involved, how it's assessed, student feedback, student achievements and statistics, and the career options available to students in accountancy. The accountancy course is 2 years long and it offers examination at both higher and ordinary level. The accounting course is numerically based, but we also cover theory and procedures as well. Theory generally accounts for about 15% of the whole paper. So a small percentage of the course is theory based, but this does accommodate students who do find it difficult to learn off large pieces of text. Junior Cert Business is not a requirement to take on Leaving Cert Accounting. It can be an advantage in some areas depending on what topics we're covering. It can be easily accessible for students who enjoyed accounting as part of Junior Cycle Business. They may find it easy to pick up some topics at Leaving Cert. With the new Junior Cycle Business course, a lot of accounting has actually been taken off that course, so we do really start from the basics in accountancy in 5th year. It does offer students who are confident in maths an opportunity to excel in a similar subject because it is so numbers based. And the course does offer a hard-working student the real possibility of a high grade, and we'll talk about that further on in the presentation.
Hi guys, my name is Joseph. I'm in 6th year. I picked accounting because I enjoy working with simple calculations and I liked the topics that we covered in Junior Cert Business.
I chose accounting as a Leaving Cert subject for a few reasons. The first reason being how much I enjoyed the account side of things in business from 1st to 3rd year. I really enjoyed the work with numbers and the satisfaction that comes with getting a question right. The second reason I chose it is I knew how predictable the Leaving Cert exam can be. This was a big factor in my decision because knowing what's going to come up before an exam is always a great help.
So the structure of the subject. Generally with accounting or any of the option subjects, you'd have 5 classes per week. It's usually 2 double classes and 1 single. For all of our topics that we're going to cover, we would usually spend the first 1 to 2 lessons with just a small introduction and any theory that's needed for that topic. After that then, it is literally just a matter of practice, practice, practice. It's consistency, making sure that you're completing the homework and that you're following the procedures that we do in class. Accounting does allow for paired and individual work. It is beneficial to work with other students in the class as well when you're trying to work your way through a question. The use of ICT is also used throughout accountancy for 5th and 6th year. There's a lot of video tutorials that are recorded. They would all be posted onto Schoology, and a lot of online resources available to students as well via Schoology. So whether that's a worked solution or a voiceover similar to what we're doing here today. So just to talk a small bit about the content and the actual coursework that students will be completing in their 2 years of accounting. So accountancy covers aspects of business and social life which are generally not dealt with in any other subject in the business programme. It does provide students with life skills such as budgeting and financial planning, and this can be used both on a personal level and also for any further career opportunities. The accounting course at Leaving Cert does set a strong basis for students who are planning on studying accountancy or even business at 3rd level institutions. A lot of the stuff that students would be covering perhaps in maybe their first 2 semesters, they may have already completed as part of their Leaving Cert work. For the Leaving Cert, we cover 2 key areas in accountancy. The main area that we would concentrate on would be the financial accounting aspect. This generally involves preparing accounts, usually at the end of a financial year or at the end of a particular period. We record and extract information from these accounts, and it allows the students then to analyse the financial information for the purpose of making decisions. The second aspect then would be management accounting, and this would all have to do with future planning. So students would learn how to analyse business costs and prepare budgets. So here I have included just a couple of the topics that we do cover for accounting for your Leaving Cert. So just to draw your attention to the manufacturing accounts, sole trader accounts and company accounts. These accounts would be familiar to students who would have completed the Junior Cert. They would have done a small bit of work on creating those accounts. Everything else that's on this list here, students at Junior Cert wouldn't have seen any of these. So we do really start from scratch and try to build solid foundations in 5th year for all students. Again, just to draw your attention to the theory, so in recent years the amount of theory being asked on the Leaving Cert paper has increased, okay? So this is a trend that we generally think is likely to continue. Students should generally expect to see theory questions in all sections of the paper, but we would usually really only see them in section 2 and section 3 of the exam. So usually the theory questions that are asked would be for you to interpret information from the calculations that you have already done. And again, we cover all of the theory in class, but like I said in the previous slides, it only accounts to about 15% of the overall paper. If you are pushing for that H1 or H2, the theory is important to push you up to that point.
The Leaving Cert accounting exam would make up 100% of your grade. The paper itself is divided up into 3 sections. In each section there are specific questions or guaranteed questions that would come up every single year. So in section 1 we answer 1 question, in section 2 we would answer 2 questions, and in section 3 we would just answer 1 question. In accounting we would concentrate quite a lot on section 1 of the paper and question 1. So question 1 appears every single year. The question is worth 120 marks, so it's the most marks on the whole paper. The question itself varies between 3 different key topics that could be asked, but you're essentially just asked to do the same question with some slightly different figures for each one. When we move on to section 2 of the paper, we are given the option of 3 questions and we would answer 2 questions from the paper. From this section we have 1 question that is guaranteed on the higher and the ordinary level paper. For higher level you would have a choice then of the other 2 questions, you would pick 1. At ordinary level you would have a second guaranteed question in this section as well, so that would be 2 questions guaranteed for ordinary level students. In section 2 then, the second guaranteed question for ordinary level students would be a cash flow statement. For higher level students, they can be examined on any area that they have studied all throughout the curriculum, and again it's just about practicing all of the questions to make sure that you are prepared for the exam and that you can answer at least another 1 question in this section of the paper. Section 3 of the paper then is the section that would concentrate on management accounting. In this part of the paper, you're asked 2 questions. 1 question will be on costing and a second question will be on budgeting. So you have the option of deciding between either of those questions, and both of those topics would come up on the higher and the ordinary level paper every single year as well. So that would be 3 out of 4 questions guaranteed on the paper.
Just to quickly recap then on the assessment at Leaving Certificate Accounting. So the exam is worth 100% of your grade. Students will have 3 hours to complete the exam. Students must answer 4 questions on the paper, and that is the same for both higher and ordinary level. On the ordinary level paper, we can prepare 4 questions that are guaranteed on the paper. So that covers ordinary level students for the 4 questions they must complete in the exam. At higher level then, 3 out of the 4 questions that appear, the topics are guaranteed. So the questions may change slightly year to year. They could ask different aspects of a particular topic, but again, it's just about making sure that we're prepared in advance for that exam.
I enjoy accounting because it's a very practical subject and I like the way that it's very black or white. That suits me as a learner. You know, you do 5 questions of one topic, you can pretty much answer them all.
To be honest, accounting is quite an enjoyable subject. What I enjoy most about the subject is how simple it can be to master a question. Now, saying that, I haven't mastered certain questions, but we're working on it. What I mean by that is very often questions tend to repeat themselves, asking the same thing every time. It makes the learning and studying part of accounting way easier. I also enjoy the simple maths that comes along with it. All you have to do is, throw it into the calculator. So it is quite simple, and it's a
The only difficulty with accounting is that it can be a lot of homework. So if you're a person that doesn't like getting an hour at least homework a day, then I'd probably steer clear of the subject. And it can be quite tight for time in exams as well, but it's very easy to manage once you keep practicing.
Although accounting is very enjoyable, it does require a good amount of work, but that's the same as all the other subjects. The most difficult part of accounting for me is the beginning of new topics. It can be really hard to get your head around certain things, but once you do, let me tell you, you're absolutely flying. My advice would be not to give up, in the early stages of new topics, and to just motor on, because it does get easier the more you work at it.
I just wanted to talk quickly and bring your attention to student achievements and statistics from accounting grades that have been achieved in previous years. So if we take a look here on the left hand side, we can see that the predicted grades for 2020. So 6,314 students registered for higher level accounting. Of those 6,314, 17.4% achieved a H1. That would give them 100 points. 1,792 students registered for an ordinary level, and again you can see here O1, 16.8% of students achieved an O1. For higher level, 63.6, so nearly 64% of students achieved between a H1 and a H3. That would provide students with 70 plus points towards their college course. I also have included the examination results for 2019. I just feel like it's important to also draw your attention to this. It would kind of be more in line with what would have happened in previous years before the predicted grades. So if we look at the higher level students, 6,095 students sat the paper. Of those 6,095, 6.6% achieved a H1. But if we look at this second statistic down here, the H1 to H3, 47.7% of students achieved between a H1 and a H3. That's almost 50% of students who sat the paper. This is a common reason for students picking accountancy as a Leaving Cert subject, because they feel that they need a subject that's going to push them up in points for their CAO. It is important to note as well that students also do very well on the ordinary level. So 1,813 students sat the ordinary level paper in 2019, 8.9% achieved an O1 and 43.1% achieved an O1 to an O3. With accountancy, there's a lot of different avenues you could go down in terms of potential careers. So we'll talk about the accounting route, I suppose, first of all. So it is a dynamic and challenging career. Accountancy is a recognised qualification that can be used abroad and internationally. Private accountancy firms provide chartered accountant programs. And what they do here is they provide training for graduates with the prospect of working their way up. There is an interview with a trainee graduate. If you would like to click the link here, it'll take you onto YouTube and they'll be able to explain what their experience is of working their way up and training with a private accountancy firm. Of course, accountants are not only limited to working in an accountant firm, there's also a wide variety of finance roles in many different types of organisations. If the organisation needs to do payroll, complete taxes, they must have some sort of finance or payroll department. So the different types of organisations you could potentially be looking at: social media organisations, for example, Facebook, TikTok are going to set up a head office in Ireland as well. They will need people to fill those finance roles. Manufacturing companies, technology companies, local and central government, pharma companies, banks and insurance companies, and also retail. So just to provide a small bit of information in terms of remuneration for accountants, you can see the different areas here on the slide that they could potentially work in: tax, accounts payable, accounts receivable, but you can also see their possible annual salaries at this level. So depending on where it is that they decide to work. So the lower rate of pay, which would be 30,000 a year, higher rate 35. So it is an annual salary based on thousands. So on this slide here, just to draw your attention to the part qualified. So if you were working in a private accountancy firm and you wanted to work your way up, you would be looking at the salaries that are located down here. So you can see here the lower and the higher rates of pay, just to give you an idea roughly of how much you would be working with if you were to take that on after college.
Accounting will be helpful for me in college because I'm probably going to study business, and a lot of basic accounting topics that we've already covered will be done in the course. So it will be useful, and it'll also be helpful as a points perspective because it's a handy paper. Like once you know how to do the questions, it can be quite easy to do well in.
I hope to use what I learned in 5th and 6th year accounting in college. I've been looking at various business courses in various colleges in Dublin, and no doubt certain parts of those courses will involve accounting. So hopefully what I've learned in 5th and 6th year will benefit me in college.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch through this presentation. If you have any other questions or you need any additional information, please do feel free to email me. I've included my email here on this slide, so DeniseKierans@luskcc.ie.